We read autobiography for the truth, but what kind of truth do we really mean? Emotional truth, factual truth, something in between? In recent weeks, the salt path has come under scrutiny. An article in a major newspaper has accused the author, Raynor Winn, of spinning a story from lies and desperation. Winn has pushed back, calling the accusations misleading and distressing. I'm not here to pass judgment, but I am interested in what this tells us about autobiography and memoir, what we ask of them and what they promise us. Because this isn't just a storm in a publishing teacup, it's about how we tell our stories and how we read other people's. To give you a little context, The Salt Path was first published in 2018, and it tells the story of Winn and her husband Moth walking the southwest coast path after losing their home and after Moth received a terminal diagnosis. It's a story of endurance, of love, grief, and the healing power of nature, and many readers, myself included, found it deeply moving. The book became a bestseller. It led to sequels, and it inspired a film adaptation starring Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs, which was released in 2024. But in July 2025, The Observer raised questions about the facts behind the book. The article suggested that the couple were not as destitute as they were portrayed, and it pointed out that there were debts and property disputes that had been left unmentioned. The headline of the article accused Raynor Winn of spinning her story from lies, deceit, and desperation. Winn responded on her website by defending the emotional truth of her story and describing the article as deeply painful. And here come the police. At the time I'm filming this, the publication of her fourth book is on hold, and she has cancelled, or at least she has paused, a reading tour of the UK. It's a fraught situation, especially for the author, but also for readers who found hope in her story. But it opens up deeper questions about truth, memory, and how we shape personal stories for the public. After reading The Observer's article, I took myself to my local bookshop and ordered Landlines, a sequel to The Salt Path. The bookseller and I chatted about the controversy, and she said, "For goodness sake, it's autofiction, it's a story." And that's the tension, isn't it? Winn wrote a true story, but she also shaped it for an audience, and that is what memoir does. Definitions can feel tidy. Autobiography is a whole life retrospective. Memoir covers a slice of life. Autobiography sticks to the facts. Memoir leans into emotion. Autofiction is fact filtered through fiction. You can find all of these definitions online. But the closer you look, the more blurred the lines. Memoirs invent dialogue. Autobiographies use narrative arcs. Autofiction modifies names and places but holds on to emotional truth. Truth in storytelling is complicated. We all reshape what we remember, sometimes to make meaning, sometimes because memory is faulty, sometimes for a laugh, and sometimes because we want the story to land. There's a French phrase I love, l'esprit de la scalière. not pronouncing that right, but you get the idea. The spirit of the staircase. It is the perfect things you think of to say in any situation, but when it's too late and you're already on the stairs leaving. But when we retell a moment, even to ourselves, we often tell not what happened, but what we wish had happened, what should have happened. Memoir comes in many flavours. Some perform, some dissect. Take David Sedaris, The Best of Me, Calypso. They're hilarious, they're stylised, they are openly fictionalised. He mines his own diaries for raw material, then reshapes it, compresses events, invents dialogue in service of humour and insight. It is real, but perhaps only in spirit. At the other extreme, there's Annie Ernaux, the French writer and Nobel laureate. Her memoirs are spare, analytical, often political. The Years tells her generation's story. A man's place and a woman's story dissect her parents' lives with unsparing honesty. Ernaux interrogates memory itself. She doesn't pretend her writing is unshaped, only that she shapes it to search for meaning, not comfort. These are two poles of memoir, one playful, one austere. Most memoirs, The Salt Path included, fall somewhere in between. So where does that leave us? When a memoirist edits out a fact, is that deception or is it just storytelling? Winn says she wrote The Salt Path initially for Moth, to cheer him up after their walk had come to an end and the bleakness of his diagnosis was reasserting itself. At that point, she was not a published writer. Later, the book would have gone through edits. It would have been rewritten to fit a wider audience. Some omissions, perhaps most, may simply reflect narrative structure. They are not intended to mislead. We don't expect journalists to invent, but memoirists, their job is different. Memoir sits at the edge of memory and meaning. To insist on strict factual accuracy is to misunderstand its purpose. This controversy made me reflect on my own reading. I've read memoirs that changed me, even when I knew not every detail could possibly be true. Memoir, at its best, offers a kind of emotional truth, not a transcript of events, but an interpretation of lived experience, a way of saying, this is what it felt like, this is what it meant. I don't think we should ask memoir for certainty. I think we should ask for insight, and I think we should be generous to those brave enough to tell their stories. I certainly hope to partake of that generosity at some point in the future myself. Memoir sits on a fault line between what happened and how it felt, between what we remember and what we only understand later. So when we ask, is the Salt Path true, we should also ask, what kind of truth are we looking for? If this controversy teaches us anything, it is that memoir is not just about what happened, it is about the meaning we make from it and the stories we shape to carry that meaning forward. And that's where I get to the end of this. I feel that at some places in this video I have been losing the thread of where I was going, and I suspect I have repeated myself a little. I apologise for that. But I hope you've got something out of this anyway. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheerio for now.